Thank you very much, Leigh-Anne. I've got two very inspirational guests sitting next to me on the couch. One is a media personality, a much-loved South African celebrity with a successful career in television and PR, and the other, a 24-year-old activist and a student from Cape Town. But what these beautiful ladies have in common is that both of them were unexpectedly diagnosed with tuberculosis, and both made their TB statuses public, addressing the plight of thousands of South Africans who are affected by the disease. And today, they're joining forces as ambassadors for government and USAID's mass TB screening campaign to bring the campaign's message and, of course, their own stories together and spread the awareness along, of course, across the world. We've got Gerry Elsdon and Phumeza Tisile. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, the two of you have taken on the responsibility of playing a very important role as ambassadors for this campaign. Tell us, in your opinion, why you think it's so important and so crucial to play this role in South Africa at this time.
Well, when I was last here, I emphasized the fact that our statistics have increased, that we're now sitting as the highest burdened country in the world. A lot of that has to do because of new diagnostics that have come into the country, meaning the more we detect, the higher our statistics will show to be, but it doesn't mean we're not winning the fight.
Yes.
More importantly, for the longest time, I was a solo ambassador for the Department of Health and organizations across the world, and it's wonderful that others who have been impacted by TB are now saying, how do we support the campaign and how do we alert people to the dangers of TB, and but also the eradication of it. How do we beat TB in our lifetime? And so I'm really thankful to Phumeza and the other ambassadors who have come on board.
Yeah. And Phumeza, let us into your story, because at the age of 19, you were misdiagnosed.
Yes, at the age of 19, I was misdiagnosed with normal TB. That's what they call it.
Yes. But
then all along, I had XDR TB. So being misdiagnosed means that I suffered like hearing loss because of the drugs.
You were given the incorrect medication.
Because I was not on the correct medication. I used, they have this medication called kanamycin.
Yes.
It was for MDR. I took the kanamycin, it was not working for me. I was resistant to it. So then I got deaf because of the toxic drugs.
Yes.
Now, what she had was not ordinary TB, and she didn't have multi-drug resistant TB. She, in fact, had the extreme type of TB.
The XTR.
That's right, which could have been fatal for her. So it's a real blessing that she's here with us.
Yeah. And so last week we were talking about your story.
Yes.
And Phumeza, for you, why did it become so important to make, firstly, your status known publicly, and then to take on this role as an ambassador too?
Well, because there's not much information about MDR and XDR TB. Like there's less awareness about MDR and XDR TB, and people don't know it, especially with the drugs. They are toxic and then they're unacceptable. Yeah. So I felt like it was my duty to let people know about this disease, like raise awareness of the disease by telling my story. Then they relate to my story, and then they'll come to me. Then they'll ask advice about the TB and continuing the drugs.
Ask the right kind of questions and get those answers that will lead them to the right diagnosis. And I mean, it must be most inspiring for you to know, like you were saying, you were a solo ambassador for such a long time, and now you are getting young people on board to talk about this and inspire fellow young people, especially through social media.
Oh, yes. Particularly through social media. The understanding that TB does not have to kill, the understanding that there are different types of TBs and that they need to be handled differently is very, very important. For us as ambassadors, but also the Department of Health, and particularly in the relationship with USAID, who has been, I promise you, a long time partner with the Department of Health to help eradicate it. MDR TB is something that very few people understand, but thankfully after her diagnosis, she'll tell you, more diagnostics have been made available for us to test for MDR TB. So we are gaining a better understanding. But how better to communicate than young person to young person?
Indeed. Indeed, and we'll carry on with our conversation right after the break, where we continue to create awareness around the fight against TB. In fact, if you have any questions to ask us, you may do so on Expresso Morning Show SABC3. That's our Facebook page, and you can also call us on 083-9133-728 as we continue our chat with Gerry and Phumeza right after the break.